Good morning, and thank you for all being here. I'm joining you from remote because I can't make it to the event. My name is Patrick Dubois, and I'm the Director of DevOps Relations at Sneak. And today I'm going to be talking about DevSecOps in the context of trust. So, a little bit about me. I've been active in DevOps for about 10 years, and I've been there from the very beginning, from when the word DevOps was started at the very first DevOps days. And I saw DevOps expanded into this cultural movement beyond the tools. And with the help of some friends, I even wrote like the DevOps handbook, which bundled many of the stories I've seen, all about focused on somewhere tools, but overall, most of it on culture. And joining Snick, I binge what many talks about the word DevSecOps, and it really made me sad watching that many of the discussions were about the tools. And so, do we really need all these tools to do DevSecOps or to understand DevSecOps? And believe me, I'm not here as a tools vendor, but you do have to believe me that it's not about the tools. So this slide will be the last tool slide. I'm sorry for those. You can still leave the room. I won't even see you, so don't worry about it. And I believe, beyond the tools, that we have a bigger issue at hand, which is about trust. 10 years ago, security was already on mind of people during DevOps, but it took us a while as the industry to mature. And now, recently, the bottleneck has moved not between Dev and Ops, but to security. And so, they're late to the party, but, there's still a party going on. So don't worry about it too much. But we need to get better at learning this trusting. Because, this is how I thought about security in the last decade. It's basically security 101 is about like trust no one. And what's the same thing happened in ops. Like nobody was trusting ops. They couldn't do their job. If some people remember the comic Bastard Operator from Hell, it was about an unreliable person not to be trusted. That's how Shadow IT got born. People went to the cloud just to evade their people, and things with security is happening the same. They're looking at creative ways just to go around like company policies. So in this slide, I started talking to many of the security folks, and whenever I would bring up the trust issue, they said, "Yeah, it's all this good, it's all good, but it is trust and verify. So we need to verify." And I do want to believe in their good intentions. And I'm not saying this is about policing the dev and the ops. And I'm hoping there is a better way of working and collaborating than we used to do before, of saying no. While exploring ideas around DevOps, I came across the research that Mark Burkis did around promise theory, and it is an interesting model to reason about technology, about the system we're working in, because a lot of DevOps is about system thinking, and the collaboration is something that is very embedded into promise theory. So everybody in the system is an agent, and we make promises to other people in the agent, in the system. Sorry, and promises should be verifiable. But the guarantee is not there that it will be that outcome, and that's pretty much like ops learned that it wasn't about building these perfect architectures that could never fail, but we learned to live with things that fail. We learn to live about security that's not perfect, and to be more about being resilient and making sure that we can deal with the things that we didn't anticipate. So another part that Mark pointed out is that it's easy when you have evidence that something is not secure. Like if we know there's a bug, we know there's an attack vector, then it's easy. We know it's not secure, or in which circumstances it's not secure. But you don't always have that evidence. And then it becomes a little bit gray. Like if you don't know if it's secure or you have no evidence, Is it secure or isn't it? You can't really tell. And that's many of the situations that we're having right now. And we don't need to fool ourselves. The fact that the CI pipeline detects a lot of stuff, that is a good thing, but it doesn't really make us feel perfectly secure. It builds upon the confidence with that we don't find issues, but we're not sure there aren't any issues. So trust goes beyond that. If we want to trust the system, we have to deal with it in a different way. In this presentation that John Osborne did at Monitorama, he did like an interesting thought experiment. He asked the audience about what imagine the systems are not changing and you don't change any of the systems. How long will it run fine? Will it run for a day, for 2 days, for 5 days if you don't touch them? Many people start getting uneasy after a couple of days, and it is not unusual because part of what makes the system work is the human. And the humans are part of the system. We work with the tools. So we need to be conscious about that. It's not only a tool solution, but part of the system is also dealing with the humans. And on a related note, John Willis showed in his presentation that which environment do you think can respond the best to unknowns? Is it a system that is perfectly structured or very deeply structured, or is it the one that has many degrees of freedom where the humans can decide? Obviously, it's somewhere in the middle, but it isn't the perfect and hard controlled thing that we want to have. There has to be a way to have the humans to make decisions or things that are harder to decide. And another example of how we are dealing all the time with humans is actually the pipeline or the flow itself. A lot of people think it's about getting the software moving, but it's actually about the humans talking around the process. They decide things, they verify things, they look at things, they triage things. So in reality, there is a mixture between tools and having humans at work. And, I hear somebody at the back, even I'm not here, I can just so hear it. Like, trust no one. I will still trust no one. This is not something we want to do. And, we can even have separation of duties. Going at DevOps speed, it's all about being more transparent about the things you do and to utilize the human factor if the tools can't solve it. And I know that sounds scary, but you gotta believe that humans are part of the solution to deal with issues. So what we are basically doing is building a team. We're building a team across DevSecOps. And part of being a good team is having a good fundamental trust. And we're so focused on gaming the results on the upper end, the results with tools, like can we fix it? But what we are not doing is building the trust between the teams. And that's what makes a team last. And, not trusting people is really costly. We have meeting after meeting after meeting to ask permissions, to decide things together. Sometimes it is very costly to do that. In fact, most of the time it's actually costly because if you don't show the trust that people can decide things, that might show that you have a culture that is not fostering that trust. Looking around for a model on trust, I came across this book, The Thin Book of Trust, and it revolves around 3 parts. Sincerity. Do you walk the walk? Do you walk the talk? Are you reliable? Reliability. Can people depend on you? Are you competent? Competence. Are you competent to do your job, and do you really care? You can be sincere, reliable, and competent, but not care. And people will see that, and they might just not trust you, even though you have all the 3 other components. And while listening to the security folks, it was really interesting once you got beyond their tools discussion what they want. And basically, it fitted the model perfectly. They wanted to be considered during sprint planning. So just be there on the backlog as something to do. They wanted to make sure that they were on the mind all the time, every feature. So they wanted to have this reliability of the developer thinking about that all the time. They wanted to be the developer more competent. So the developer had to learn more security practices. And the developer needed to care. And that's easy to say because security is security's job all the time. So why would the others care? And that's what made it a little bit harder. So what a developer wants from security is they want to know that they're sincere. And you become sincere by understanding that there's more things and priorities than just security, and that there's a balance you have to find on the backlog. You also want to be there when they're having issues or when the stories are reviewed. And part of not being there doesn't make you a reliable person because you're not there. And they want to become more competent, the developers, but they want somebody else also to teach them and to explain this technical security issue to them that they didn't know existed. And also, they care about the system. And the more you follow the model, you build it, you run it, like this ownership builds up in the team, and they become also caring about security as well. And what we're aiming at is that security is a non-blocking thing and it's a self-servicing thing. So you can teach the others to do the things that they need to be doing during their job. During a talk, Zane Lackey gave a good example how they changed the approach at Etsy. So imagine a sensitive configuration file. Nobody's normally allowed to touch it unless you have approval from 5 people. But now also imagine it's 2 a.m. in the morning and there is like a deep problem in production and somebody needs to touch that file. Will you wait for 5 people to get the approval? Waiting. So they changed their model by saying whenever somebody wanted to touch the file, it would give a warning. Are you sure you want to do this? This will go out to 5 people if you do this. And people feeling competent and confident to do the change and that it needs to be done, they can do their jobs. For people not feeling confident, it will be enough to say, I'm not going to touch this. This is not something I should be doing. So what they did in the end, they trusted the operator as well, not just the process. Another example is, many tools will check vulnerabilities, and it's all good, but we're actually also relying on humans and tools to report those vulnerabilities. So they are part of our solution, and we want developers to become aware of the issues. So we notify them during the development process, and we allow them to fix the problems themselves. This enablement of security, giving that to developers is something that really works well. But it's more than just checking the vulnerabilities. The trust of a library has actually happened way before that. There are many things that a developer considers in selecting a library, and it also has to do with the trust model. Is this library sincere? So do they follow their own code of conduct? Are they friendly to new people? Are they open to new ideas? Are they reliable? What about issues after releases? How often do they release? Is there a cadence? Do other libraries depend on that? Are they competent? So do they have tests? Are there readmes? Is there a change log? Are there like release files? Has it been audited? Is the code well written? Like many things to pick up and check the reliability, or less, trusting the library. And then the last one is, does the library still care? Like, is the pull request too open too long? Are there too many forks? What about the last commit date? All these kind of things, like how long did it take to fix the security? All the things that show that people care about the library. And there's one thing that is getting in our way, is that we generally think about ourselves being more trustworthy than the other thinks of us. So we need to be aware of that. And one of the reasons that is that we judge ourselves by our intentions and others judge ourselves by our behavior. So we have the hypothetical ideal case in mind, but the others are seeing the reality. And that's a lot more complicated. And this process takes time. So all these for kind of aspects, they take time. But in many cases, a tool can get a good discussion going, and you look at the value stream and at the system, and you can discover many things together. So true DevSecOps is when you get beyond the tools, and you start building the DevSecOps as a team or as a group that really works together in cases that you didn't anticipate with the tools, or the things that you can detect with that. On the flip side, we need to be aware that we need to become more trustworthy. So that means we have to do the same things that other people expect from us. And so we have to learn things, we have to be sincere, we have to come to meetings, we have to be, understanding, having empathy, all the same thing of becoming trustworthy to somebody else. And here's some homework that you can use to explore some of these building of trusts. I want to give a special call out to Agile Conversations, which is the first book I read about digital transformation in the light of having like interpersonal communications or collaborations. It's about having the hard conversations. When you don't agree, how can we get better at that? How can we say things to improve and encourage others? And it's building upon that trust. It's not yet out, but it will be published soon. And as a last note, I want to say that, all change is hard. Maybe in 2021, people will say, you've tried DevSecOps, it just didn't work. It's so 2020, but you just got to believe and keep going. And as long as we improve our human skills, we have a chance. And it will not just be about the tools. With this, I want to say thank you and enjoy the rest of the conference. If you want to reach out to me, I'm Patrick Dubois on Twitter, or just send me an email. Let me know if this presentation resonated with you, or if you have any questions. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the day.